Welcome back to Basic Structure. Our material today is passive voice. Now let's start. This video will talk about the form of the passive voice. In general, the form of the passive voice is be plus stem and en, or be and stem plus en. So that's the predicate of the passive voice. And then we'll also talk about the usage of the passive voice. We have three reasons for the use of the passive voice. The first is the unknown or unimportant agent. The second is emphasized action. And the third is for a scientific context. So we use the passive voice in a scientific context. That's a typo mistake. And then we'll talk about the by agent on the phrase, which is used to show the agent on the action. And finally, we'll talk about the special cases in which the form is should be active, but the meaning is passive. Okay, first the form. The form is that when in a sentence we have the subject, and then after the subject we have be. The form of the be here depends on the subject, and after be we have the stem plus en. This is the predicate. So we have be and stem plus en. And then after that, we have the adjunct. So this is the normal order of a passive sentence. Subject, be, stem plus en, and adjunct. So adjuncts can be adjunct of time, adjunct of place, adjunct of manner, or any kind of adjunct. And then we have a match on the form of be here should match the subject. Now, let's see the examples of how the form of be should match with the subject. We have in a sentence like, I also invited to the meeting. So here the form of be should match with the subject I. In this case, I am also invited to the meeting. And then we have married grounded for 2 days. We have married grounded for 2 days. This is probably still going on, and therefore we can either have is or was. Now let's see. We have Mary is grounded for 2 days. So Mary is a singular third person, and then we have is, and then the verb is stem plus ed here, ground and grounded, or the term for the passive verb is stem plus en. The letter written 2 days ago. So 2 days ago, and this is a letter. So letter is singular, and it was 2 days ago, and therefore the form is the letter was written 2 days ago. The books only sold online. We have plural here, the books, and sold online. So probably this one is still going on, and therefore we say the books are sold online. We have the show might cancelled because of the COVID pandemic. Here we have cancel. This is the verb plus en, the past participle form, and we have might here. We have got might here, and therefore it does not match with the subject of the show, but we have be here because after a model auxiliary verb we have be on the stem form. And then we have the test result has been announced. Here we have has in the form of be here, while the verb form which should match with the subject is result, and therefore we have has here, result has. But the form of the be here is because we have has here, the form is been. The test result has been announced. And then you have the hotel. Here we have is and being renovated. So we have got is here as a be here, and then we have the hotel is being renovated. Is being renovated. The form is being here because we have got is being renovated, and this is passive. Then we have the forms of be here. Let's see how be can have different forms. We have be. And then be here in the form of be here depends on the subject. If the subject is, well, it depends on the subject, and then it also depends on the tense, and it also depends on the auxiliary verb. So if we have be, the form of be should be adjusted to the subject, the tense, and the auxiliary verb. Here for subject, if we have person I, we, you, they, I is with am, we is with are, you are, they are. Or if you have singular third person, you have is, he is, John is, she is. And then the subject number should also be considered. If it is singular, it's either is or are. If it is plural, you have are. If it is past tense, then we have verb of past tense. We have verb of plural, and then we have was. And in the tense, here you have the choice between am, is, are for the present. This is if we don't have any auxiliary verb. So we have subject and we have be directly. If the tense is present, we have am, is, are. And then if the tense is past, we have either was and were. Was for he, she, it, or singular third person, and were for was also with I was. And then were is for the second person and plural third person. And then we have auxiliary verb. Here we have, if we have model, then we just have be, can be, will be given, can be sold. And then if we have perfect, we have and has. So have and has here should match the subject. And then we have been after have and has. So, and then we have continuous form. You have be here, and the first be here is for the continuous, is being. And then for the past, for the passive, we have being. So we have, these are the forms of be. The first, it depends on the subject. The subject determines the form of be. And then the tense, we have either present or past. And then we have auxiliary verb. If we have models, we can have just be, will be, can be. If we have perfect, we have been. And then if we have continuous, we have two be's. One is for the continuous and the other is for the passive. Now let's see the verbs. We have the forms of verb. In general, we can differentiate the verb into two forms. The first is the regular form, and then the second is the irregular form. So verbs for the past participle from the passive can be in the regular form or the irregular form. Here we have just add ed like plan, and then we have planned, clean, cleaned, and wash, washed. So here we have the well, the second form and the third form are the same. If you have plan, plant, plant, and clean, clean, and clean, wash, washed, and washed. So the form of the second from the past tense and for the passive is the same. I mean, for the third we and the second are the same. Plant on the past tense and plant for passive or perfect are the same. And then we have the irregular verb. We have here we also call the third form on the end form. We call the third form because the verbs which are used for the passive are the third form. The first is eat, the second is ate, and the third is eaten. And then if you have take, took, taken. So the term for the passive of the irregular verb is more common. It's more common to call it with the en form. This is to differentiate between the en form and the et form. The et form is from the passive. I mean, the et form is from the past tense, and the en form term is for the passive and also perfect. It is called en form because the irregular verbs, the third form of the irregular verbs, have many en verbs. So many verbs in the third form have en or n with en. You have eaten, taken, given, broken, and thrown. This is only n. So if you have to dig, dug, the third form is also called the en form, because although it doesn't end with en. If we have do, did, done, that's also en in fact. So that's done is called the en form of do. If you have has or have had and had, I has had So had is also called the third form, although the form doesn't end with really with en form. Let's see more examples of the passive voice. We have like the salary was raised. So this one is ed form. Once again, the form is ed, but we call this is the en form. Raised is in the en form. The salary was raised. The houses are painted white. This is are here because we have houses. Was because salary is singular. The car has been repaired, so the car has. And been here, the choice of be here is been because it comes after has. The car has been repaired. The careless policeman was suspended. So the policeman was suspended. Here, the verb, the be form is was because policeman is singular. The careless policeman was suspended. And then we have the houses again here. The houses were washed away in the flood. So washed away, this is was is the en form, and then the be form is were. Here we use past tense and we have were because it's plural, houses. And then the football competition will be cancelled. We have be here. So in the form of be here is be because we have the modal will. The football competition will be cancelled. My plane was delayed for half an hour. So we have was here, past tense, and because plane is singular, my plane was delayed for half an hour. And then we have another example, the last example here. Some windows of the train were broken. So we have the windows here and then in the were and broken. We have were because it's in the past and it's windows plural. Now let's talk about the usage. The past tense is used if the agent, the doer of the action is not known, unknown, or are not important. So probably we know the agent, but the agent is not important. Or probably we just do not know the agent. For example, my camera was stolen. Well, if we knew the thief, probably somebody stole my camera. But here, the agent was not known. My camera was stolen. The printer is broken again. Probably we know the agent, but the agent is not important. The fact now is that the printer is broken. It's broken again. So the agent here is unknown or is not important. Here, several flights are cancelled because of the heavy rain. Of course, we know the agent. We know who cancelled the flights, but here it's not important. The fact that the flights are cancelled is more important here. Several flights are cancelled because of the heavy rain. And then the second reason is for emphasized action. So the action, the passive action is emphasized here. We can say your car has been fixed. So you can take your car, it's ready, the action has been completed. So your car has been fixed. We know the agent, we know who fixed the car, but that's not important. The most important here is that your car has been fixed. So it's for emphasized action. Then we have the murderer was sentenced to death. Here, the death sentence, the sentencing to death is more important. We know who sentenced, who read the sentence, but here the action is emphasized. It's more important. The murderer was sentenced to death. And then the last example of emphasized action is I'll be promoted next month. So the promotion is important. I'll be promoted next month. I will be promoted. So here, once again, this is emphasized action and we have be here because we have will. I'll be promoted next month. Thank God. And then the third reason for the use of the passive is we use the passive in a scientific context. For example, we can say the passive is used to avoid subjectivity. So this one, we have the passive is a subject and is used to avoid subjectivity. So this probably we can find this sentence in an article on language article on how to write a good article. So this one usually used in a scientific context, and the purpose of using the passive is to avoid subjectivity. We do not want to show the agent, but the process of the objectivity here is emphasized or want to be shown. For example, you have the data analysis has been done very carefully. This is the objective, to show that the data analysis has been done very carefully, has been done. So we have the passive has been done, and we have been here because we have has, and we have done here because it's passive. The data analysis has been done very carefully. We have the students can be classified into three groups according to their reason of their study. So we have can be classified. Of course, somebody classified the students, but here the most important it appears in a scientific context. We want to be objective and we want to avoid subjectivity. Students can be classified into three groups according to their reason of study. For example, they study because they want to master something, or they study because of a certificate, or they study because of some social reason. So we can classify students into three groups. This is just an explanation of why we can call that students can be classified into three groups according to their reasons of study. And then the next we have the by agent. The by agent, we have like by and then the agent. We have a phrase, noun phrase, by agent. The agent here on the door of a passive action can be shown with the preposition by. So we use the preposition by to show the agent on the door of the action. For example, I doubt if the short story was written by Chopin. So I doubt if this short story was written by Chopin. Here, Chopin was the agent or is the person who wrote the story, but it has a different meaning if you make it into active. We say, I doubt if Chopin. So we have two different things here. If we say, I doubt if this short story was written by Chopin, we doubt because probably the quality of the short story does not match with the quality or the other Chopin's work. So the doubt is because of the short story. If we make it into active, I doubt if Chopin wrote this short story. The story is different. Here, our doubt is on Chopin, on her ability, or on probably the short story was not as good as other works of Chopin. So here, in fact, the use of the passive and the active are different. But we can show the different. We can show the agent by using by Chopin. And in this context, I think by Chopin is the passive is more suitable to show that we have a doubt on the quality of the short story, whether it was written by Chopin or not. Another example of the use of by agent. So although by agent is not usually necessary, but if this is important, then we can show the agent by using by. The beautiful picture was taken by a small child. So a small child took the picture. That the meaning is more or less the same, but here a small child took the beautiful picture. Here the emphasis is different. The beautiful picture was taken by a small child. We wonder how such a beauty was observed and can be captured by a small child. So our admiration is on the beautiful picture. Then if you say a small child took the beautiful picture, probably the admiration is on how clever the child is in that he could or she could take the beautiful picture. So the admiration is different if you have these two sentences. The beautiful picture was taken by a small child. We admire in the picture. A small child took the beautiful picture. We admire the child. Another example which has a different meanings like that with the use of by agent, we have the funny statement was said by a minister. The funny statement was said by a minister. The statement was funny. So how could such a funny statement be said by a minister? So the focus in on the funny statement here. Whereas if we say a minister said the funny statement, the focus is on the minister. A minister said the funny statement. How can a minister said such a funny statement? So we use the active here with a focus on the agent on the door. If we use the passive with the by agent, then the focus is on the passive voice on the object, which becomes the subject in the passive voice. The funny statement. So our wonder is how such a funny. If we say a minister, then how can a minister do such a or make such a funny statement? So the admiration, the wonder, the question is different from an active and passive sentence. And then this one, especially in language which like this, we have the accident was happened because of the traffic jam. What's happened that many students often make this kind of mistake because happened is accident happened terjadi in Indonesian. That's passive, but and then therefore in English they say the accident was happened. This sentence is not correct because happen itself has a passive meaning. So happen comes or should not come with was. The correct form is the accident happened because of the traffic jam. So the accident happened because of the traffic jam. Happened without was. The same thing with the explosion was occurred early in the morning. The explosion was occurred early in the morning. Was occurred, that's not correct because occurred has already passive meaning. And therefore we just say the explosion occurred early in the morning. That's the correct form. So to conclude our talk, first we have different forms of be, am, is, are, was, were. If we just have the be without any other auxiliary verb, or we should consider the tense and also the number, and whether we have auxiliary verb models can be or perfect have or has been or continuous is being or was being. So those are the different forms of be. We need to consider the subject, the tense, the presence of the auxiliary verb because those determine the choice of the forms of be. And then we have also talked on the forms of verb in the en. So the passive form the passive has the form of be plus stem plus en, or be and stem plus en. We call the en form here because we have irregular verbs in English like go, went, gone, eat, ate, eaten. And the third form use ends, or many third form ends with en, and therefore the term for the form of verb which comes after be is the en form or stem plus en. And then we also have talked about the usage. We have three reasons for the use of the passive. The first is the agent is not known, the agent is unknown, or the agent is not important. And the second reason is the action is emphasized. So the use of the passive here is for emphasizing the action. And the last, thank you. Hopefully this one is useful for writing with a good style. Thank you.